Your AI pilot died at month 3, and I'll bet money nobody in your practice announced it. There was no meeting, no decision. You just tapered off until one day someone asked whether you were still paying for that thing. And the answer, unfortunately, was yes. Here's the part that should make you feel better and worse at the same time. MIT studied over 300 AI developments and found 95% of them delivered zero measurable return. You're not bad at this. You're normal. So in the next 10 minutes, I'll tell you 3 reasons it dies and how to keep the next one alive. First, let me take the blame off the software. Look, because that's where owners usually put it. In almost every dead pilot I've looked at, the tool worked. Demo was accurate. The vendor didn't lie. What failed was everything around the tool. And that part was your job, not theirs. The research backs this up. MIT's lead author was blunt about it. Executives blame regulation or model performance, but the real cause is flawed integration. These tools never adapt to the actual workflow, and organizations never adapt their workflow to the tool. This is not a technology problem. This is an organizational one. Here's what nobody's telling you. That's actually very good news, because if the failure were technical, you'll be stuck waiting on a vendor. And guess what? It's not. So it's a process, which means that the next one is entirely inside your control. So I'm going to give you 3 points to how to do this. First is never the software. Stop shopping and start looking at the setup around it. Second, I'm going to talk about the 3 killers and how to fix each one. And third, what a live pilot actually looks like at month 3 and the one signal that tells you that it took and won. So why should you listen to me? If you've never been to this channel before, my name is Theo Harvey. I went from employee to CEO of a remote multi-million dollar healthcare startup, earns $1 million from investors, and worked with the likes of Cisco Systems, AT&T, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and other healthcare organizations. My mission is to help healthcare pros get ready for the new normal before it's too late. So let's talk about point 1. It was never the software. Here's the mindset shift that changes everything. When a pilot dies, the instinct is to go shopping for a better tool. That instinct is where practice owners buy 4 tools in 3 years and end up with none of them running. The tool was never the variable. The setup around it was. There's a quote that says, "Every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets." That's attributed to W. Edwards Deming. The dead pilot isn't a broken tool. It's a system doing exactly what it was set up to do. Here's a statistic. The size of the gap between good and bad setup is enormous. Prosky Best Practices in Change Management study did research across thousands of projects and found that 88% of projects with excellent change management met or exceeded their objectives versus just 13% with poor change management. Same projects, same tools, 7 times the success rate purely from the human setup around it. That's not a rounding error. That's the whole ball game. This is a good analogy. Think about a gym membership in January. The equipment works, the building is open. Nothing about the treadmill fails in February. What fails is that nobody scheduled the workout. Nobody tracked the starting weight, and the old habit of driving straight home after work never got retired. Nobody blames the treadmill, but in your practice, we blame the software every time. It's never the software. It's the setup around the software. Let me say that again. It's never the software. It's the setup around it. So before you buy anything else, go look at the last tool that died and ask one question: who owned it? If you can't name a single person in under 3 seconds, you already found reason number 1. So let's talk about the point 2, the 3 killers. Nobody owned it is the first killer. You rolled it out to the team, which means you rolled it out to nobody. Shared ownership in a busy practice is the same as no ownership, because everyone assumes somebody else is handling the annoying part. The fix, you just need one name, one person who owns a tool, whose job description now includes it. And here's the part that people skip. Who gets something taken off their plate to make room? We used to say it when I used to work in technology back in the day, is one body to hug or one throat to choke. If you name an owner and stack the work on top of an already full day, you haven't solved the problem. You just picked who's going to fail. Why does this work? From the data. Well, Proxy found that active visible sponsorship is the single strongest contributor to change success of any factor they measure. Not the tool, not the training budget, somebody who visibly owns it. So let me talk about the second killer. You had no baseline. Somebody asked in month 3 whether the tool is working, and guess what? No one can really answer that because nobody wrote down what things looked like before. So it becomes a feelings conversation. It feels like the calls are getting better. I think we're getting more messages. Feelings lose budget fights every single time. So the fix is simple. Take 2 weeks. The fix takes 2 weeks and costs nothing. Before you turn anything on, measure 4 numbers. How many calls came in? How many go unanswered? How long from a patient reaching out to somebody responding? And how many appointments actually got booked? 2 weeks of that written down, and you now have an argument instead of an impression. And this is the single most skipped step in the industry. For instance, a 2026 analysis found 61% of AI projects were approved on projected ROI that was never actually measured after launch. They budgeted for the promise and never checked the receipt. Before I get into that, if you allow me to take a moment to provide you with a brief public service announcement. We know it's about 84% of you watch our videos but are not subscribers yet. If you can do me a big favor and take the time to subscribe, as I will help the algorithm reach more people like you. As healthcare is rapidly evolving and changing, we all need content like this to adjust to the new normal. Now back to the video. All right, next, let's talk about killer 3. You never retired the old step. This is the big one. You added the tool, but never killed the old step. So now your front desk is doing the new thing and the old thing. AI books the appointment, and Sharon, your front desk person, still writes it out on paper schedule. Look, nobody told her to stop, and she doesn't trust it yet. That's not automation. That's double work with a subscription attached. And staff are smart. They'll drop whichever one feels optional, and the optional one is always the new one. Here's the fix. Write down on paper which step is dead as of which state, and check in week 2 whether it's actually dead. You cannot automate your way out of a process you never changed. Notice what all 3 fixes have in common. They're about the transformation, not just incremental updates. These solutions only work for healthcare organizations looking to change how they've always operated. That's the exact principle we built our independent practice profit system. This is for independent practices squeezed by reimbursement cuts and staffing costs. Selling to a hospital or private equity can feel like the only option. With AI, there has never been a better time to help you with changes in medical billing, reimbursement, and financial models that can give you more options. So if you own an independent medical practice or clinic and want to see how AI-driven billing, new reimbursements, and financial planning could add 6-figure profit without seeing more patients, I'm offering a limited number of 30-minute clinic transformation strategy calls. In 30 minutes, we'll diagnose your biggest revenue leaks in medical billing and reimbursements, show you where you can create new reimbursable revenue in your existing workflows, and give you a map for your next 2 to 3 profit moves and see if you qualify for the independent practice profit system. These calls are for owners who are serious about staying independent and only open a handful of spots each month. So if that's you, go ahead, look at the link below, book your free 30-minute clinic transformation call. Next, we're getting to the final point, and this is the one I watched come back. Let me give you a story about how I watched something come back from the dead because it's the cleanest version of all 3 fixes at once. The practice had an AI phone system nobody used. The owner was ready to cancel. Instead, we did 3 things over about 5 weeks. 1, we named the office manager as the owner and pulled her off the refill queue to make room. 2nd, we went back through the old phone logs to reconstruct a rough before picture, not perfect, but good enough to argue with. And 3, we wrote it on the whiteboard that as of the 1st of the month, nobody at the front desk takes appointment requests by hand. The last one caused 2 weeks of grumbling. I mean, look, real grumbling. People were complaining here. But by week 6, the same staff were asking whether it could handle after hours flying too. Nothing about the software changed. Everything about the setup around it did. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Peter Drucker said that. In medical practices, culture is just what we actually do on Tuesday. One of live pilot looks like at month 3? Well, 1 person owns it, has the time to do it. You've got a before and after on 4 numbers, and the after is better on at least 2. And the old setup is gone, and the team can tell you which one. And finally, somebody on staff, not you, is asking whether you can do the same thing for the other side of the building. The last one is how you know it really took over for your organization. Here's one action. Pick the pilot that's stalling right now. Fix one of the 3 this week. Name the owner. That's the one that unlocks the other 2. You want a second set of eyes on a pilot that's stalling or one you haven't launched yet? Just book a call with my team on that transformation, and the link is below. So in conclusion, it's really never about the software, it's the setup around it. Point 2, there are 3 killers. No owner, no baseline, no retired setup. All 3 are processes, not technology. And point 3, fix 1 this week, starting with name the owner and watch for the signal, staff asking for more, which means the next tool you buy has a much better chance than the last one, as long as you fix the part around it first. Humans with better tools beat humans with lesser tools, but only if the humans actually use them. One last thing before you go. If you want the 4-number baseline sheet, drop the word clinic in the comments below and my team will get it over to you. And tell me in those same comments where your practice is stuck right now, because it's usually what I end up making the next video about.